This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I think there was a time when everyone and their nan was super interested in guitar pedals. It feels to me like sort of 10-15 years ago, Wampler, JHS, these companies had like a little bit of a heyday where people were really kind of enthused about you know, the latest kind of pedals from these companies. And I feel like maybe that sort of period is slightly over, and I'll just say why. So I don't know if you realise that Wampler just released 2 new pedals, for example, that were affordable, the Pantheon and the Triumph. I've not heard loads of people raving about these. I mean, maybe I'm just not involved in these things in the same way that some people are. But also then if you think about, you know, it would have been back in the day, I think, the case that you see, you know, loads of new pedals with loads of buzz behind them. You know, Rabea or people like that might show off a new pedal, Pete Thorne, and you'd think, ooh, that's quite a cool, neat thing. I think this is seeming to me to be happening less, particularly, you know, things like individual drive pedals or individual delay pedals, or, you know, just individual pedals in general. I think the things that have really started to take hold more than ever before, and I think that is probably true, is multi-effects and also modeling devices. And so you see more and more kind of acceptance, particularly things like the Quad Cortex. I've seen people, you know, say this is my first ever modeling device, so some part of that marketing must have worked. You see loads of people, of course, like this has been happening for years, this thing. For example, like the Strymon Timeline, the Strymon Big Sky, probably are some of the best selling pedals in general, right? And those are digital multi-effect pedals. And these are the things that I think are going to sort of be the things that people are more interested in, particularly if I think people are necessarily going to possibly be spending a little bit less money on gear. So, you know, if someone brings out a new drive pedal or a new pedal with an analog cab sim in it, are you going to buy that, or are you going to buy the thing which is actually kind of future looking and multi-effect? And this idea that I think multi-effects would necessarily be lower quality is now, I think, firmly out of the window. Companies like Meris are dealing with them, and also, you know, pretty much any pedal I can think of that creates some amount of interest for me is probably a multi-effect. You know, like Chase Bliss makes some really interesting stuff. Those are multi-effect pedals, like they're loopers, they're delay pedals, they've got pitch elements in there as well. They're not making these bog standard, just kind of one use device, right? Old Blood Noise Endeavors, Eventide, Walrus Audio, most of these companies are making multi-effect things, and most of them are using digital anyway, right? There are only, I think, a limited small amount of companies that are still making these kind of one-off, this is the delay you need kind of thing, and it's just one delay sound or setting. It seems like the multi-effect really kind of is becoming a whole new thing. And you look at the amount of boards that have got an Eventide H90 on them. Of course, again, this is like a 10-year-old device, but it's taken time for this to really become a thing that people, I think, are really getting au fait with. You think about, you know, now that they've got the Eventide H90, people won't have to have two H9s on a board. You think, well, if I can have one H90 on a board and, you know, run two algorithms at a time, you know, how much could I do with that versus, you know, 3, 4, 6 other kind of normal pedals? And then I think about something like the HX effects, you know, how much more could I do with that than any other combination of pedals that I've got? It's just, you can get so much done with a multi-effect and save money. And then again, this point about analog to digital conversion, if you had, say, a Strymon Mobius and a Strymon Timeline, then that's, you know, 2 analog to digital conversions. Now, of course, those are multi-effects, but what if you had just one kind of digital delay from, I don't know, Walrus Audio, then you had one reverb from Walrus Audio, you had another reverb from someone else, then because you're not jumping into the multi-effect world, you're going to have way more digital to analog conversions than if you were to just go down the multi-effect route, right? The one downside to some of this multi-effect stuff is I do think time programming becomes a thing, but you then probably factor in that if you were to buy a pedal board and start putting together all of these things, then time programming would be sort of time building. So instead of building a physical pedal board, maybe you're spending time these days building virtual pedal boards, which I think have a little bit more permanence. And this is one of the things that I sort of noticed from Tim Pierce's video that he did on pedal boards a little while back, and he was talking about, well, I don't want to take this pedal board apart because if I do, then I don't have access to these sounds anymore. You know, these things can hold digital pedal boards, whatever they're worth, you know, maybe nothing, maybe they're worth something, and, you know, those can be used again and again and replicated across devices. There's kind of something more sustainable about that. Also, you think about something like the Axe effects. These are being used in rigs all over the world by folks like The Edge, Steve Vai, John Petrucci. And those, again, that's very much the idea of a rack kind of multi-effects. I don't know, is this something that you're noticing? Are you finding yourself less interested in certain things? I feel, for me, for certain, the gas that I feel more strongly is towards things that can do multiple jobs versus sort of single type effects. And I can't really recall the last time that I really thought, well, I need to have a go on this single effect. Like even the last drive pedal that I've just bought to do a demo of is the Boss Angry Charlie Blues Driver combination, because I think, well, actually that's a drive pedal that can do the job of 2. And so any pedal for me that is only doing one job, I find myself less interested in, because there seems to be, you're kind of getting less for your money. Is this across the board true, do you think? Are you still finding yourself interested in pedal boards, interested in single-use pedals? Let me know if you can think of any that have come out in the last sort of few months or the last year or so that have caught your interest that aren't multi-effects pedals. So, you know, like the Meris LVX is, of course, a multi-effects, and I think quite sexy and quite interesting. I can't think of anything else that has come out that has been a single pedal, a single use pedal that has caught my interest in that way. And even like JHS now has started to make Kemper profiles, sort of diversifying from building single pedals. Are we seeing people move away from this single kind of pedal board thing? Maybe this has been happening for a while, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments if you would. I'm going to go play some guitar.
Feel free to like and subscribe.